All right. Okay. So we got our audio back. Oh, seriously, trying to watch the honestly, you're gonna get a whole choreographed dance move by the end of this season. There's gotta be. Oh, it's annoying because I can't record it because it's just recording my output, not like you guys.
It's just for you, Nick. It's
So did
not for
Colin?
anyone else.
You said on the last episode you were gonna record this. Did you record that?
Oh, hold on. Give me a second. I can get back the last 30 seconds.
Oh no, 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 no.
Yes. Or you have evidence.
I need to do this quick. Right. I've saved that. We'll have a look
Okay,
afterwards and see if it
awesome.
worked or not.
Can't
Yeah.
believe you've done this.
We're gonna have a epic fails compilation of all the times that we've screwed up on the podcast at the end of this. Anyway, welcome to Catching Up podcast. We got this sidetracked before we even started. That's classic us, right? So yeah, welcome back. Thanks for all the comments and views and sharing. We love it. On the previous one, we've had over 300 views on YouTube again. We love that. And also shout out to EDF for shouting us out because that was pretty awesome. We love this. So all the more content for everyone about dodgeball. So yeah, as promised, last time we said we were going to go and talk about mixed and men's on this episode. So that's what we're going to do. Unless anyone else have anything to say, shall we get straight into it?
We love you.
We love you, those who play dodgeball, and those who watch it and support us. We love everyone. All right, let's go. Straight into mixed. So, mixed pools. For those that are audio listeners, what we're showing on the screen at the moment is the mixed pool standings at the end of it. So, just to run through them real quick, we have Pool A, Netherlands first, Scotland second, France third, Switzerland fourth, and Belgium fifth, with Netherlands, Scotland, and France qualifying through to the quarterfinals. Pool B, England, Sweden, Italy, Czech Republic, Croatia, with England, Sweden, and Italy finishing in the top three and therefore qualifying along with Italy. And then Northern Ireland, Austria, Wales, Republic of Ireland, Spain in Pool C, with just Northern Ireland and Austria making it through. So I'm gonna open it straight up. What's our initial thoughts? Where are we at with this?
Pool A was bonkers. Like, make it make sense. I know we were predicting that to be a tight group, but we mentioned there was potential for the merry-go-round of victories, but I didn't actually think it was going to happen. I didn't really back it when we said it, but I think it was Zoe that was convinced it was going to happen. Zoe's French prediction once again kind of coming through, fairly clutch. one set off of or two sets technically off of nailing that prediction. But yeah, that was a hell of a group to watch, wasn't it?
Was indeed.
Yeah.
It was good fun.
That was a very fun group to play in as well. But yeah, stressful group with three ridiculously close teams at the top. And then, I mean, honestly, Switzerland had an eye in at times.
Yeah, you had some really close games with them as well, didn't you? Like, I think there was one, maybe two matches where it came down to a set.
I mean, in all of our games, the difference between our mixed, and our women's is that our men's won the games that came very close. Our mixed and our women's lost them.
So what we're now knowing from this is that Zoe's very good at dealing with heartbreak.
I'm not bitter at all.
You had some really close
Savage.
games. So
Yeah.
in the mixed group, you lost to France by one set, who ended up claiming fifth, I think, overall. You had a very close game to Belgium as well. You won that one though.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, well played, and a bit of a interesting group because it was basically the second day of the group stages, so the Friday, where everything went down for that group because that was when you had the fun of the Netherlands beating Scotland, and
That was a good game.
did the Dutch Wait, which one the other game I'm thinking of? So Scotland beat France. France beat Netherlands. Yeah, France beat Netherlands on the second day, and then Netherlands beat Scotland on the second day as well. Scotland had an awful run in that day with Netherlands because they had 3 matches back to back against Netherlands. They lost 2-1-1 with only the men's being the Dutch, because the women's lost and then the mixed lost, and then the men's managed to bring it back and get a win. So an interesting one for the Scots. On that note, I'm just going to say the Scots were the most unpredictable team.
In pretty much every division as well. Like
just literally everything. Like, so any match we're going to talk about that prefaces the Scots, we're just going to say on their highs they could have beaten anyone, on their lows they could have lost to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were all over the place in mixed and men's.
And every for Scotland. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Zoe.
I was just going to say that their best performance for Scotland, they could have won the whole competition. It felt like it was like when you say they could win anything, I genuinely do believe that the best Scottish performance would have been the kind of one that could win the whole thing. But they only had it not even for a full game at times. So it was very unpredictable, and hopefully they just managed to actually find out what sparks them in those few moments and bring that back for the next one.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, pretty much every player in Scotland, especially from the mixed matches I've seen, individual players had so many big moments throughout the tournament, but whenever it mattered in the games that they lost, nobody really was able to step up the gear as a team to drive it home. Because if they did, like, if they all played at their best, they were beating anybody that was put in front of them. Like, I would have loved to have seen them all at their best against, the top 3 in the end. But there was never that time where it just felt like it was clicking and momentum was gathering and they were just going to storm off.
I do think, though, say that they didn't feel like they clicked. That's very much just sort of in their performances. They don't feel like they clicked. Yeah. As a team, they felt so, they just seemed like they were having such a good time and they were really enjoying being on a team together, which isn't always something that we've seen in some versions of the Home Nations squads before. And I think that this version of Scotland, I know that for the process for applying for them this time around, then you had to really give your reasons as to why you were actually applying for it. And I think that was a good step to have in the process, because clearly the people who were there, but the people who were there were the ones who wanted to be there, who actually really cared. And I think that showed on court. So, really good step for them to do that. And I think that worked out well for them.
I love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I took some notes on the Scotland-Dutch game because I think that's the one that I think surprised most people. But the way that game sort of worked out is the Dutch took a quick lead to 8-0. My general opinion was that the pre-throws from the Netherlands was pretty good, and then Scotland came back by taking advantage of lapses of concentration of the Dutch. But in the end, that sort of bit them back, because there were times when the Dutch were playing concentration and they were getting those catches, and there were a few times that they were getting out of the way and dodging, and then it just meant that they didn't have ball control. I think there was a bit of ball control issue from that mixed Scots team in that game, where they were just throwing away 4 balls when they didn't need to, and then there were so times where it just seemed like they weren't really paying attention when they were dodging, but that was really tough position when they're trying to claw it back from 8-0 down. But yeah, it was 3-11 at half time, so really well played by the Dutch to bring out such a strong lead and come out of the blocks so hot and get that lead out. And also, the Dutch were really good at taking the Scots men out in the mixed really quick. And I think that played a huge part into it as well.
Yeah, it shows you how much better tactically Netherlands have come on this tournament compared to previous. Like, usually they didn't really... It didn't look like they went in with the game plan in previous tournaments, but across the board, Netherlands really stepped up their game in terms of quality of players and in quality of tactics as well. It was really cool to see.
Yeah, and I mean, you can see how close this group was. The fact that 3 teams finished on 6 points, they all got 3 wins.
Pretty much same set difference across the board as well.
Yeah,
how often will you see that in any sport? Like, never mind dodgeball. You know.
And I mean, you look at the other group as well, and this all comes down to show that it really screwed over Wales, like really screwed them over. Like it's rough because if you look at Pool B, so Pool B, what happened is so for audio listeners, the top three for Pool A were all on 6 points, but then Pool B you had England on 8, you had Sweden on 5, and Italy on 5. Whereas you'd normally expect third place to be finishing on 4 points with 2 wins and 2 losses, essentially splitting the pack. But Sweden and Italy managed to pull out an amazing game where they drew to each other. Having watched that game as well, like just the back and forth nature of that game was nuts. It was great.
Yeah.
It was a really great game to watch.
If you're going to show like somebody brand new to dodgeball, that's a great game to show because it had a bit of everything, like as an all rounder, and went to the final whistle. And it was just, there was no, like they all just went like foot in the gas. Let's just go for it. There was no sitting back. That was a fun game.
Yeah, I think what made the, with that game, like Italy definitely made some better heads up plays, I felt at times. But then when Sweden managed to get ahead, there were some times where I felt Italy was trying to claw it back when they didn't need to. Some little experience in game management would have maybe not saw out the set, but make the clock run down so that the impact of losing one set didn't run onto another set, and then they could pick it back up when Italy were winning sets, they were winning sets. There weren't very many close ones when they were doing that, but Sweden were good at playing tactical and playing through it. And I think that's one of the big reasons why Sweden mixed played so well, because they finished 4th overall, didn't they? I think.
Yeah, they lost England in the 3rd place. Yeah,
really well played, to be honest. So yeah, some great placement from them. I mean, we expected England to top that group, and then we have the group of death. There's no nice way to say it. It was the group of death. Like you watch that, it was a tough time. Though fair play to Spain for only getting a -62 set difference, because poor Croatia on -88 there. Bit of a rough time, but that is one hell of a group with Northern Ireland, Austria, and Wales playing against each other. I think we all thought Wales were going to get through because we thought with it being such a close one, you'd expect low set difference, which shows because Wales, lost 2 and still ended up with a positive set difference. But just because of the draws and the round robin in the other groups meant that they missed out. They
literally,
they did a really good job of finishing 3rd, but the other matches.
As if Sweden beats Italy by a set, Wales go through.
Yep.
And if the round robin is why the set difference is so tight there, but Wales could have snuck through potentially if that didn't happen. But yeah, so it's just the luck of the draw, isn't it? It's always going to happen. Somebody has to miss out, unfortunately, in these situations. And this time it was Wales.
Yeah, it was. They played well. They did a really good job against Northern Ireland and Austria. They were tough games to play in because they're two of the best teams in mixed. But
the two best teams in mixed.
the two, yeah. Yeah, so that group stages game was actually really great to watch. I'm not sure if anyone else watched it, but
yeah, it was very, because I watched it whenever it happened on the live stream. Great game. Like, it shows you everything that's great about both sides. Especially showed why Northern Ireland deserved to do as well as it did. The game management, the throw-in accuracy, the clutch catches, their ability to survive, like. Because I know a lot of the Northern Ireland ones that whenever they train for Queens, they get trained on basically on judo mats essentially. So they're like being taught from the start how to do the big dodges and not be afraid of them early. And you can it shows with it how they've progressed from university players to now, that they're still doing those big dodges now on the big stage in the big court.
No, it was a really good game. I think there was someone said that they only played their first team both Northern Ireland and Austria only played their first team for half of the first half or something. But you couldn't tell. The standard was really good and it was a really competitive game. I think Northern Ireland I can't remember what the final score was, but I think Northern Ireland did a good job of managing that game in the end. What was the final score?
Yeah.
It was 13-9. It was closer than I remember, because I remember watching it feeling like Northern Ireland kind of had it in hand.
Yeah, Austria did have to claw back quite a few sets, I think, if memory
Yeah.
serves.
Like Northern Ireland played really well, saw it out, and it was a good game, good preface to the final in the end. But
Absolutely.
we were definitely saying at the time, could this be a finals match again? But because that was a repeat, I think the 2019. Sorry, correct me. 2019 mixed finals was Northern Ireland Austria as well.
Yeah, it was.
So we
Sorry,
got-
correct you. I was a referee for it.
Oh, I'm sorry. So I asked sorry because she's the one that's done all these articles about it.
No,
you know,
that's
so-
fine. That's fine. Cool. I'll remember this.
That group is just bad luck because, like, any other year, your first and second place from 2019, you wouldn't expect them to be in the same group, but it's just because Northern Ireland has come so far so fast that their seeding didn't really reflect it, I don't think, as far as memory serves. And then there was all the kerfuffles.
Yeah,
with
that's why. It'll reflect a lot better after this year.
yeah.
Haven't looked at the rankings.
Yeah,
but
Northern
Rough luck for everyone else.
Northern Ireland were 4th, I think.
Yeah. So that's just rough luck for everyone else because realistically that's 1 and 2, not 1 and 4.
Yeah, 'cause
Two and four,
Scotland were 3rd. So it
Yeah.
was Austria 1, England 2, Scotland 3, Northern Ireland 4. Which meant Northern Ireland fell into
Mental.
Pool C. But I think Northern Ireland had a thing or two to say about that after this Euros because they've definitely moved up in the rankings after the results. So
yeah, hell yeah.
hell yeah, they did. Really good job. But anyway, any other game? What was it like for you, Zoe, in the Swiss Belgium game? So that looked like a really close one. What were your memories of it?
The Swiss-Belgium one was really interesting because I think we were quite wary going into that match that it wasn't the same Belgium team that we'd seen before. For starters, they spoke French, or at least half of them did, which was not the case in 2019. It was a Flemish team in 2019. So we were pretty sure it wasn't the same people. So we kind of went into it a bit blind. But it's always nice to like talk to another Francophone team. I think that's something that there aren't that many teams that can really say that they share a language. The Francophone teams, the French, the Swiss, and the Belgians, are all very lucky that we can actually talk to each other in our language. So that's quite a nice element. The actual playing itself was fantastic. It was a really, really evenly matched game, which was surprising for us. I think we expected it to be a little bit less even. But it was just, they played really, like, a really cohesive game. They had a very tight-knit team that seemed to be operating a lot smoother than you would expect for a new squad. And so it just sort of felt like they had each other's backs. They were very aggressive, and we couldn't really answer it a lot of the time. And then we did answer it sometimes. And it sort of went back and forth between which team seemed to be having a better individual frame. Every frame was close, and the whole game came down to a set. So the definition of a close match. But massive kudos to Belgium. I was amazed at how much they'd come on to 19. I think that's something to look forward to, just see how they progress in 2 years. I don't know what their league structure is like. I don't know if they play ever against some of the French teams. There must be some French clubs nearby. But but I think if they don't, then they should. If they do, then that would explain a little bit of what we saw, because it was really surprising, in the best way possible.
Yeah,
So I probably would be so happy about it if we'd lost.
Yeah, fair. The reason I ask is because we didn't talk about Belgium much on the last episode, and I just wanted to because unfortunately I wasn't able to see much of them either, because they seem to be on courts that were like the other side to Wales, which I was mainly following. So I wasn't able to see much of them at all. And as you're probably aware, there's been so many good games during Euros. Is that personally, I was watching games like all the way up to the lead up to sitting here now. So this whole afternoon I've been watching games as well. And I just haven't been able to sit down and watch any of the Belgian games. But when I did look over and was able to see, they were playing good dodgeball from what I can tell. They were making smart decisions. They were playing well. So, I want to give a shout out to them and say, they're on the right track. And, I'd love to see them keep going, because they've definitely had some really good results here, I think. I mean, maybe not on the winning side, but definitely like some really close games and really, showed what they're made of. Which is good to see.
And from a technical side, something that I think was very interesting for us Swiss players was seeing that they had different languages. You know, they weren't all French, Francophone Belgians. There were some Flemish players within that, and so I think their team language is English. But this is something that obviously we don't have to deal with in the UK. All of the home nations speak English, but it is something that Switzerland is going to have to grapple with in the next few years. If we're trying to expand into, like, the Swiss team at the moment is Francophone, we're the western side of Switzerland. If we keep growing, the hope would be eventually that we grow into the whole of Switzerland and touch on the 70% of the country that is Germanic. We don't speak Swiss German, so it's quite worrying for us, this kind of concept of what's the team going to look like in a few years. How do you actually do that? How do you have a team that doesn't all speak the same native language, and how do you balance that as far as your team dynamic? Does it make it worse? And looking at Belgium and seeing a team that was actually functioning incredibly smoothly and operating as a very good team was really nice to see. It wasn't, split 50-50 down the middle with one team doing Flemish tactics and the other team doing, French tactics. It was operating in one style, which is just very comforting to see as a multilingual country. I don't think there are many countries within the current European nations that will have to worry about that, but it is something that there are other European nations that will be worried about in the future. So that's a really good sign, and that's something to take a lot of comfort from and to kind of learn lessons from, I think, Belgium.
Yeah,
That's such an intriguing issue to come across, like, because I would obviously like never even think about that being a potential blocker, but that's actually really fascinating.
Do you not call in Irish?
I know they used to, they don't anymore. But
I'm pretty sure the Welsh chant is in Welsh. I think like when they
do you understand it as their social media executive?
Shut up. I was there doing them a favour. Okay?
Right now.
The Welsh are talking about doing their calls in Welsh in the future. There are some
I
players
think they used to do a bit of it. Yeah, they used to do a bit of it a few years ago, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, it's an interesting thought. I've never really, because I know in England we definitely have like the how do we make our call system different to other people's call system and different to England's call system, just so that if we do say something on call that another team hears that they don't necessarily understand it or whatever. But it is an interesting one.
There's another point on that. So, like I said, like there aren't that many teams that speak French at the Euros, but there are two. And so that's something we have to think about as the Swiss team going into the event, because there are two teams that will understand our calling system. So we actually have a subtle like backup plan for when we play against French teams. We change our calling system so it's harder to read. It can change. I don't think we actually used it at Euros because it was too loud, but we can change our calling system mid-game in case the French side has understood and has caught on to what we're doing.
Incredible.
And so that's just something that like we came up with because we're very wary of the two Francophone teams. I don't think any English team that have done that.
That's incredible. I rate that so highly.
That is good. I feel like then by that logic, like it would be cool if like Italy then defaulted to just like doing all their calling in Latin. And it's like no one else listened to this. It's so good.
I've definitely heard a story of somebody doing something like that at their club, like picking some random language that's never used.
Right, we're back. Okay.
Yeah.
After some technical difficulties, we're back on track now. So on to the knockout stages. Again, hopefully I've got the scores right on this one. Some close games in this one, in the mixed, in the quarterfinals, especially that Scotland-Austria game. That was what a game. I would have loved to have watched so much more of these. I honestly wish I'd gone back and seen all of them.
I would love to have seen the three quarterfinals outside of the England-French one. No offense to France, because I think you played out of your mind, but England showed quality in that game. But the other three, I don't think there was a time where you could have called the winner at any point during the game. Like, there were some great stuff. Like you said, Scotland-Austria, brilliant game, but that Northern Ireland-Italy game, I genuinely thought Italy were going to come out the victors in that. which is it's surprising considering the group how the group stage went, but it really showed that they just kept raising the game as the days went on. Incredible game that I definitely recommend people watch.
Yeah, definitely. The Scotland Austria one was like it was really well played by Scotland. And just I think it was just the Austrian class that sort of shone through on it. I mean, um, Stefan like I'm gonna be horrible at pronouncing his surname. Stefan Leitinger. His uh,
Good.
his game management was incredible. Like
Oh, fantastic.
it's
That
just
like you teach that to people. Yeah, well, sorry, you can't teach that to people. That's a pure brains, like
yeah, like if you yeah he shone in the mix especially. Like if you go and watch the
very
Austrians play
fair.
mixed, like they're especially in that England game later. But um, if you want an example of how to game manage, in my opinion, that's your person to watch. Like I'm gonna be end up talking about him a lot because honestly, he just did so many great things for Austria, and
Fanboy.
boy, yeah, and that's arguably saw them to a lot of wins because of that.
Yeah,
And
100%.
his brother's not half bad too, to be fair. When he came on, so I think like in the England game, the first thing he does is he walks on and he takes a catch like centre court, and I'm like, okay, all right, this is impressive. Like
Oh, hello.
yeah, this is my kind of dodgeball. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, that Scotland game. Honestly, Scotland were they also wanted to play that sort of slow. Well, not that Austria wanted to play a slow game, but Scotland were definitely playing a better ball retention game. They definitely learned their lesson. They were not going up and countering as much. They were holding back and going up as a three and throwing in that way, and they were getting hits from it. Like this
Yeah.
Scottish guys were doing really well. Um, but then Austria just shone through because they've got talent around the board there, so that's why they did so well. Um, but yeah, a great game to go rewatch.
I actually think that was probably Scotland's best game as a mixed team as well in terms of I just think they got, you know, slightly outplayed. But if in terms of like how they played and what they'd be looking to take in, excuse me, to the next Euros, they need to look back at that Austria game and go, let's do this, but more consistently.
Yeah, no, definitely. The other quarterfinals games, I wish I'd rewatched the Northern Ireland Italy game. It's not one I ended up rewatching. I will be watching it after this. I can
It'll
tell you
be
that.
it'll be on the Nick's favorite games YouTube list that
Yes.
he'll make in the next year.
Yeah, at some point. I know I said, or we said after in the last podcast that we'll come up with a playlist for people to watch, but we'll definitely do that after this one.
You're meant to save me time and having to actually look up matches myself to watch, mate.
Yeah, there's too many good ones. I mean, yeah.
There is
As the scores
honestly,
show.
I think mixed this year really showed what it's meant to be all about.
Yeah.
There's so many incredible games that happened, and so many games where the scorelines don't do justice to how well both teams played as well. Especially a mix compared to men and women's. Like I think this year was a real staple as to what the division's all about.
It was interesting because of the way that the quarterfinals felt meant that we were going to get a different fourth place to before because of that Sweden Netherlands game. And to be fair, Sweden played really well and deserve that. It's again good game to watch. Both like similar-ish styles in playing, I'd say.
I think that's fair.
Like it's neither conservative nor all-out aggression. It's somewhere in the middle, trying to take their chances when they can. I think Netherlands were more the catch-heavy team, and Sweden were more the like sort of pushing on and trying to hit through the catches at times. But yeah, that's about all I have to say on that one really, because it was just a lot of these games. They were a bit back and forth, and you like there's no real massive takeaways other than just go watch it because. I definitely found these in a lot of games, don't know about you guys, but it's hard not to just like start getting nervous and like antsy watching it and going like, oh, this is a really good game. Like, who knows what's going to happen? And then forget, oh, actually, I'm trying to like keep an eye on the tactics and what was going on there, like, because you just get far
just
too
enjoyed
invested.
it, right?
You
Yeah,
just get far too invested in the game.
I don't know how any like pundits on TV and stuff do it because you just end up just enjoying what you're watching, right? Like honestly some incredible games to watch over the weekend. and moving on to the semi-finals, that Austria-England game, unbelievable. Like that's some spicy stuff.
Yeah, that was a great mixed game. If I remember correctly, Austria. Oh yeah, it was another one where Austria had done enough in the last sets
Yeah.
that meant that England couldn't come back.
The survivability of Austria in that game was perfection for a lot of the sets. They made England work for every single set because there was quite a few sets that England won where it was like 5v1 or 2, and the Austrians drew out that time and just kept grinding it out. That's how you win dodgeball matches. Like it's playing out the time whenever it's needed.
I
Textbook,
think,
absolute textbook.
yeah, watching back the Austrian matches in all three categories, it's very clear that they always just seem to have too many players on court. Like they just somehow have all the players there. They don't go out. And it's because they're playing this very intelligent game where they do take risks, but they take very specific risks. And I think it's very controlled, like we've said before, and it's very, yeah, they go up and they do some fantastic stuff. It's very exciting dodgeballs to watch, but they are selective in their risks, I think. And
Yeah,
that's
it's
why you
what
end up with these situations constantly in a match against England where you've got, either it's in the last minute you've got 5 Austrians versus 1 English player, or you've got 3 against 3. It's never 5 English against 1 Austrian. It never seems to go that way.
Yeah, I'd
the
agree.
only way I'm ever able to describe it, and nobody ever fully understands. But like, if I was to like tell people how to describe it, I'd be like, go watch Austrians play. It's smart aggression. It's really
Mm.
smart aggression. They know when to pick certain players off. They're always looking for opportunities to take out their best players. They're
Mhm.
always fully aware of everything on court, from where the balls are, how many balls they have, to who's probably going to be the next person that'll be vulnerable. It's so smart, honestly.
Yeah.
It's impossible to try and teach any of that. It's pure experience. It's fantastic to watch.
There was a great example of that in for the mix where the Austrians had 2 players left. It was Stefan, one of the Austrian ladies, and then Hems on the English side. And Hems comes up, throws, and then Stefan comes up, counters immediately, like full power, throws it like about 10 centimeters in front of her. There's no way she's catching that. There's no, like, all she can
Yeah.
do is dodge to get out of the way, and there's a ball gone. Right, it's on you again to throw. Like, just
Yeah.
really, really well. And it was just the power he was able to do it at that specific spot was just, honestly, it was great to watch. I in general, like in that game, it was an interesting one. I didn't feel like England really put pressure on Austria on the wings at all. Like I feel like Austria were able to play that more, you know, that strategic game because they were able to go up and put that pressure at the court and then come back and then just say, hey, right, we're gonna, with the 3 of us, we're gonna throw a single ball now and go up and do what we want. And it wasn't until the second half where a few subs were made that I think that England really like started putting Austria under a bit more pressure, and then you started to see the sets come back to England's way because I think Austria were like 8-4 up at half time or something like that. I can't really remember.
Yeah, it was something around 2 sets.
But it was like Austria did really well to counter that and then like play down the time. But I think if England had been a bit more aggressive on the wings maybe and force those 2 balls and force it out of Austria and force Austria into playing a way that they didn't want to, I think maybe England could have seen a bit more thing like that. And another thing I think we commented when we were there, and I don't know if it was just in this game or whatever, but England in general seemed to be really good at pinpoint accuracy on 2 ball throws, almost to the detriment, to the point of the fact that like 2 balls hit almost exactly the same place on the same player. But if that player makes one move, that's 2 balls missed. And I'm not sure if it was, something Northern Ireland and Austria did on purpose or whatever, but the grouping on the balls were a bit more spaced just at the same time, but timing was still good, but like the placing was slightly different and the tracking was a lot better, I felt. It might have been because I know we've talked about England's dodging previously, but it might have been that England were doing big dodges slightly before the release of the ball for the Austrians, so they were easier to target, and Austria and Northern Ireland just better timing at dodging. I don't know if that played into it or just the way that England throw their balls compared to Austria and Northern Ireland. But there was definitely a bit of that. There were times where it was just like really great throws by England, just in the same place, and it was just one move, and it looked like a really good dodge, but really they only had to move one way, and then they were out of the way.
Yeah.
I think you're downplaying like how good it is from the dodging side of things, because the only time that ever happened was against probably the two best dodging nations about in Austria and Northern Ireland. Um, like I was talking about earlier on, like they're brought up on making those big movements at the very last second. I think Northern Ireland are incredible at it, and I think a lot of the Austrians are too. Um, Tracking, you could probably argue was a bit of an issue. But whenever you're throwing like as hard as you are to stop them from catching, because they're also incredible catchers across the board, tracking at the very last second is a very difficult thing to do.
Mm.
I don't know if Northern Ireland and Austria were slightly better at it compared to England. Maybe they were. You could argue it, but I do think that it's the level of dodging and the timing of dodging, more importantly, that um, seen the likes of Austria and Northern Ireland make it so far in the competition.
I do think though the pairing has quite a strong impact on maybe younger, less experienced teams that are particularly strong at catching. So the best example of this is France. If you're the French team going up against England and you're the French girls, you know that you can. And so you're going to go for that catch. But because the two balls are in exactly the same point, you are going to get hit every single time. You can't catch both of them. Double catches are super, super rare. So, every time you go down for it, you get hit out. And so it works very well against those teams where they're good catchers, but they haven't quite got to the point yet where they're very selective in their catches, which is the difference between someone like France and Austria. Austria are very good at catching, their women especially, but they're selective. They pick out very specific balls to go for the catch, and most of the time they'll go for a dodge instead.
Very good
So I
point.
think, yeah, it has a strong impact on certain teams and it doesn't on others. And I think that's the difference is that England don't tend to want to change their tactics based on who's in front of them. They want to control the game and make it their style, which is fair enough. There's some good reasons to do that. But the downside of that is you will have instances where tactics will work incredibly well against one team and not at all against the next. And if you're not adjusting to it, you kind of just have to live with that you were so stubborn and your style didn't match up with who you were against that you kind of dug your own grave there.
Yeah, it was a really good game. I mean, from the score only being 10-12, you can see it was a low scoring game. It was a nail biter. And I know Austria did pull away at the end to seal it off, but again, just like it's a theme in all of them, right? Is that the semi-finals were great to watch, the finals were great to watch, and there were also games all the way down that were great to watch. And this was just another one of those examples of just if you're wondering why we're sort of lost for words at times, you should probably go watch it, and then you'll understand, because it was just one of those things, like being in the crowd and just watching it. It was, I was sat with some of the Welsh lot, and sometimes it's like, so why are, like, from analytical point of view, why are these guys doing better? And you just have to sit there and say, I don't know, it's just great dodgeball, like, and top analytical mind coming in there. It's just great to watch. But yeah, and then Northern Ireland on the other side seemed to get past Sweden to get into the final, and then we have a Northern Ireland Austria final, which, so we talked about the Austrian England final last time. The other thing to say, we all knew this going into the final day, was that there was the lovely, lovely opportunity that of Northern Ireland, Austria, and England, all three of them were in two finals, which meant that there could have been a scenario where everyone takes home a gold, a silver, and a bronze. We'll get on to what the actual results were, but so this was really interesting because we knew Northern Ireland didn't make it into the women's, but they were in both the women's, the mixed and the men's finals. And in this one, they were playing Austria. This was Austria after claiming gold, like in the match before this. This was Austria's chance to claim double gold against Northern Ireland, who they beat last time in the finals in 2019. But a really good game, this one. I might as well just put on a record player, get soundboard out. Nick's description of the game, really good game.
Go watch it. Go watch it.
Go watch it. Go watch it. Subscribe to Netherlands Dodgeball, and all that jazz. But yeah, my summary was, this was such a fast-paced game. Like watching it,
Northern Ireland didn't want to let Austria get out of the blocks at all,
Yeah.
and then made it a very uncomfortable game for Austria. And fair play to them. Like I wasn't expecting to play the kind of style that they did, especially whenever you look at their men and women's, they don't really play that. They try to play that kind of style that often. Um, but they did against Austria, and it bloody works. It
Yeah.
was, and the scenes were incredible.
Yeah. It was one of those where, like, when I say it was quick, it was like the starts of the set were quick. Like there was
Yeah.
very not very long time period for there being 6 players on each side of the court.
I'm pretty sure Austria even stopped running for the middle ball if they
Yeah,
I'm like they just let Northern Ireland have that ball at the start
they were so
and
quick.
pin them off.
Was it
I might
Murphy
be wrong
running
with that,
centre? I think it
but
was Murphy running centre,
yeah.
wasn't it? And he's just,
Oh,
honestly
he's a
rapid.
hero, man. Like I
Lovely guy
love
as
watching
well.
him play. He's so good.
Yeah.
He's so annoying to play against. I'm glad I didn't have to do it this time. I'll be honest. Adam Hill had an incredible game as well. He had an incredible tournament all around. He just for me was just perfect pretty much every game he played. Um, Shannon Smith, I believe her name is. I might have got that wrong.
Mhm.
Stepped up so many times, and I'm pretty sure she made like two big catches to turn sets around. That popped into my head. Um, and just from everybody in Northern Ireland, their throwing accuracy throughout the tournament, but especially in the game against Austria, was just so good. I couldn't fault Northern Ireland for anything, and Austria tried to claw their way back into the game, and they just wouldn't let them, would not let them breathe properly. It was such a good game to watch.
I think for me, the temptation looking at that final before it started, looking at the fact that it was Austria versus Northern Ireland, was trying to sort of look at it and go, okay, how are the Northern Irish women going to do, and how are the Austrian men going to do? Because their counterparts are in their respective finals. So the Northern Irish
Mm.
men are in the men's finals, the Austrian women are in the women's finals. But the Austrian men didn't qualify for their finals, and the Northern Irish women didn't. So if you're trying to like identify a weak link, as it were, then that's your kind of first thought is like, oh, what's respectively made them weaker than the equivalent players on the other side? And it really didn't feel like the Northern Irish women were any weaker than their Austrian women. The women that were in the mixed squads felt very, very evenly matched in a way that they didn't
Yeah,
in the women's league. And I think that was just, yeah, when you say like Shannon Smith was incredible in that match, like absolutely phenomenal. Um, I didn't feel like Northern Ireland was amazing to me when I was playing against them in the women's, but looking at them in the mix, I was terrified of those women. I thought they were phenomenal players. So it's just really interesting to me the fact that obviously it does come down to the fact it's not the same 6 players on court because 3 of them are men, but it's also not the same tactics, and some players do just benefit from the mixed style. There are people who are better at mixed than they are at their respective gendered sports. And I do think those Northern Irish women just absolutely thrived. They were fantastic in that mixed lineup, and yeah, I think that that's clearly their format works very well in mixed. In a way that you'd hope soon, very soon, I'm sure the Northern Irish women will be up there in that final as well. But it mixed their specific skills in those women players were just fantastic for Northern Ireland.
Yeah, it was one of those games where, as I was watching it, like, if I had to try and pick out what were Northern Ireland doing better than Austria, and we were talking about Austria playing that like low risk type game, right? When they were going into this, there was a lot of aggressive counters from both sides. But what Northern Ireland were doing well, which made the difference in my opinion, was when they were retreating back, they were quite often actually standing their ground and taking the throw. And usually that's not the wise thing to do because you're in sort of no man's land, you're going to get hit. But Northern Ireland, like Austria were then reacting, they were jump dodging most of the time to get out of the way. And Northern Ireland were hitting shins and ankles every time they were jump dodging. And like that was the difference. Like if the difference comes down to if someone's going to do a jump dodge and you're still hitting ankles, like that is really brave throwing because the way you're aiming is right where a player could take a catch at the front of the court.
Hmm.
But it was the acknowledgement of they haven't thrown their ball yet and they're not going to drop it, but with the way that they're running, so they're going to jump and just absolutely leathering at them and getting the hits. It was incredible, and that was to me the main difference in the way that especially in the first half, Northern Ireland were able to creep ahead. Austria definitely brought it back in the second half, but Northern Ireland in the first half were just so good at that thing, like just getting the hits. It was, yeah, really great to watch.
Oh, it was brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and congratulations to them. They definitely deserved it.
Yep, the first gold for them at any European Championships. So,
Oh, honestly, seeing how happy they all were, just
it
it
was
warmed
great.
your heart, doesn't it? Like it was so nice to see.
and well
It
deserved,
really was.
really well
Abs-
deserved.
Absolutely. I'm confidently say that they were definitely the deserving winners, not just in the final, but from the overall tournament.
Yeah, no, definitely. They were really good. But let's go on to the final placings for mixed then. So, let's see if I've done this right. Hey, final placings. So, Northern Ireland take the gold medal. Austria take the silver, with England with the bronze. Sweden obviously making into the fourth place after their semi-final loss to Northern Ireland, and losing to England in the third, fourth playoff. But the first thing I'm going to jump in straight away is that Italy, France, fifth, sixth playoff game. What a game that was! Oh my god! Like, in many ways, like, as good, if not better, than the final. Like, it was such a... it was one of those games where I didn't actually mean to end up watching it. I was trying to watch the Welsh game over the top of it, and I just end up being sat in between the Italians and the French watching this game right in front of me, and I was like, hold up, what's the score? Oh my days. And it was like, it was a back and forth game, especially that second half. Like, France clawed it back and took a lead, and then Italy clawed it back and took a lead, and it just went back and forth, back and forth. And I think the final set, if I remember, it was decided by an overtime, I think. I can't remember.
No, I
Was it
don't
not?
think so. It was.
It felt really close. 14-10.
I want to say
So
14.
Italy,
Yeah.
yeah, it was 14-10. So Italy did claw away in that final set, but I think it came down to that final set for France.
Yeah,
to
it was
draw.
it was
Italy won
12. It was 12-10 going into that last set. I'm pretty sure.
But honestly, like, what a game to watch. And also shout out to the Italian and French fans, because sitting in between those two, I know sitting in between a France-Italian game in general is a good time, but sitting in between them for dodgeball was honestly amazing. Really great.
As we're all aware, Zoe's the #1 French fan for dodgeball.
Yep.
So she's very grateful that they had a hell of a showing.
I did though find it very funny that from a supporting side, the French chant is obviously "An Univers," which is "Go Blues," and they seem to chant this regardless of whether the opposition were also wearing blue shirts.
Yeah, I think it's slightly different though when it's like Forza Azzurri, right? Which is like, because Azzurri itself is colour, isn't it?
I don't speak Italian. I'm Swiss.
Neither do I, but I think it's like a different shade of blue. I could be wrong. Please, Italians, call me out. But that's my understanding of it. But
blue dabba dee dabba da.
Gets out. God, we're gonna, at this rate, we're gonna have to have a catching out playlist of just all the songs that we would have on. But yeah, and also the Marseillaise was being sung quite a lot as well, which was just great.
Yeah.
Like, the support there was fantastic for both teams, and it was such like a nervy game to watch. Like, it fairly frequently came down to just like two women on either side like battling it out. And it was just such an incredible game to watch, because like we said on the last one, you know, Italy women didn't get to play French women in the women's league, but in this match they were basically playing each other for this match, because the men just decided, you know what, let's just take each other out, let's do trades, and then the women were fighting it out for the end. And it was incredible because they have a similar-ish style of play, right? The Italians were really good catchers. They were a bit quicker around the court and being really aggressive, but the French were even better catchers, and, you know, very nimble and very light on their feet around the court. So it was just, yeah, great game to watch.
Two incredibly similar teams when you think about it, because the French men in the mixed team are, you know, a little bit older, a little bit more experienced players. And then they've got mostly a bunch of the young players from their women's team, because a lot of their women's team are very young. Italy had the same thing. They had a lot of very young girls in their young women in their team. So you end up with a situation where you've got the experienced men taking out the experienced men, and then just incredibly light, great catching women playing against each other. It's just a mirror match. It's the exact same team playing against each other. They even have similar flags, for God's sake. Like, it's the same team.
Yeah, it was
Wow.
honestly just yeah, it was. I mean, we'll see what Mini's is it Matteo Mini his
Oh, Mateo, the nicest man in dodgeball.
Lovely guy.
Oh
so
my
there you go,
god, what a
little award
man.
for you. The yeah, he's got an interview, I believe, with Sergio on the Dodgeball podcast. So we'll see what his experience was and if any of that comes up. But he played blinder of a game as well. Really good leadership at times as well, making sure that there wasn't loose heads going around. It was one of those games where it could have gone either way. Based on emotions of the teams and how well they were really feeling. Like the momentum was swapping all the time. Like heads went down, other people were like jumping for joy. It was, if you the real definition of a roller coaster of emotions. Whereas I think the other finals were just like they were tense all the way through. This one was like if you had a side to pick, you were like either on a high or you were like at the low, and it just kept flitting from one to the other. It was.
I feel like you're still freaking out over it.
I had just a little bit. It was.
I can hear your heart racing from hearing
Just
it.
yeah, it was honestly it was it was funny. I could fangirl about that match in particular. If there wasn't a most valuable match like award, I would give it to that match for the Euros. That would be my match of the tournament, like to watch.
Yeah, there we go. Not
you
an
go,
MVP for a match.
But yeah, other games that were good in the knockouts because there were quite a lot, and I don't want to like forget about them just because they were in different placings. But honestly, Zoe, your game against Spain, not only did we get a shout out on the live stream, so that was pretty
Greg,
awesome.
what a hero!
What a legend. But also like on a a friendly point, you bloody like catching masterclass at times. Like your second half performance, just taking catch after catch. Greg was damn right. He says, "Oh, I can't really say catching out because you were just making catches and not going out because you weren't getting hit.
Catching not out.
Yep, catching not out. So just
He
playing
tried
really
so
well.
hard, bless him.
Yeah, but
I've
honestly,
never,
that
I've
game.
never seen a commentator beg for somebody to get hit so badly in their life.
It was but yeah, really really great game to watch. Spain, like to talk about them for a second, they really came out like with a really aggressive play style, and they were Iceman didn't catch his first name in the end, but he played really well. He was good aggressive up the court, making some good catches at times as well. Just the Spanish team in general, they really really played well and shone through. And not the Swiss didn't play well, just another very competitive game.
Yeah, I think about that match. I've thought about it quite a lot since we played it because it was such a close match, and it shouldn't have been based on that first half. But basically, Spain just came out swinging, and for us, it's the last match of the day. It's the last thing that you have to do, and I don't know. You're tired. You sort of don't have. If we'd come across them maybe earlier in the tournament, maybe we would have come out stronger and more aggressive. But at that point, it's an 11th and 12th place match. I think a lot of people struggle mentally to actually like engage with that match and come out aggressive. But Spain didn't. Spain just went for it and destroyed us in the first half. Went up 10-0, and then we got the last 90-second set. So it was 10-2 at half time, I think. And then we managed to turn things around. I think the thing for that, there were two things I really thought about it. The first thing is just the power of catching as a thing in dodgeball. We talk about it a lot as the fact that it is the most valuable thing you can do as far as a single thing. Hitting someone out, that is worth -1 on their side. But catching is a -1 on their side and a +1 on your side. So it is the most valuable. But we also don't really talk about the mental impact of it. It's great, hitting a lot of people out on the other side, but a catch is something, you immediately have someone running in and it creates this immediate noticeable burst of energy. And I think for Switzerland, for us, like the fact it wasn't just me, other catches were made, and like we suddenly started to pick up a bit more energy as a result of that. And we were like, okay, we can get in this, we can get back into it because we're now getting players back in, and it creates that energy immediately. So I think catching, I love catching. I think it's a great thing in the sport, but I think the mental side of catching can't really be understated in a match like that where you're actually having to create energy from going so far down so quickly. The second thing I want to say, though, is Spain. My God, that's completely different Spanish team than I thought. Like the same players, but the way that they played was so different to how they played in Paris. When I played against them in Paris for Warwick Eliminated, it was the Spanish national team and it was the mixed team. So I felt this is the only team I felt like I knew going into Euros 100% what they looked like and how they played. But the Spanish team, the way they played in Paris, was they had very strong men, and their women essentially felt like shrinking violets. They were on court, but they weren't really playing, and it didn't feel as if their men were encouraging them to play, and they felt like very, very weak links, which is harsh to say. And the only reason that I'm publicly saying this is because the way that those same women played in Euros was completely different. It was incredible. They were part of the team. They were engaged in the team, and frequently they were the ones who were pulling things back. They were supporting. Iceman would go up and throw a ball, but it was a girl who was there to defend him on his run back. And it's things like that where I think we can sometimes assume that women are going to be the weak links in mixed dodgeball, and critics of mixed dodgeball, or skeptics, maybe is fair to say, tend to sort of say, oh, why would a woman want to play this? It must be, I would never want to be on the back of a court. I would never want to be the part of this team because it's not fun as a woman. And it's like, no, you are part of that team. You are a very, very valuable part of that team. You're not lesser than the men on the court. And I think that Spanish team really got that in a way that I wasn't convinced they got it in Paris. But something changed in them in the meantime. And that was just a machine of a team. Their women were fantastic. And I can't commend the women of that Spanish mixed team enough. They came miles in a very short span of time.
Yeah, I think
Love that.
Yeah, definitely. I think so. Going on to your catching thing, I totally agree. I think I can't. You listen to so much dodgeball stuff. You don't know if we mentioned it or someone else mentioned it, but that feeling of when you make a catch, it's such an exhilarating feeling. Like, yes, I've got a catch. Like absolutely on top of the world, that you have to give the ball away to someone, otherwise you're going to go do something completely stupid. Because that's what often people do, is make a catch at the back of court, they run forward and then immediately get caught themselves. Like, it is such a mental factor. So 100% agree. Colin is very guilty of that. Go watch any of the Leeds Dodge versus Manchester B games. Caught him out a few times.
You mean the match I didn't play?
Mate, year before, mate. Two years before. It's fine.
Your memory goes back so far when it comes to beating.
You can just tell I live rent free in this man's head, that he has to have dreams about this.
I had you in my back pocket the entire match, mate. It was beautiful. Anyway, let's not get distracted by nationals. But talking about the Spanish, I definitely feel like the Spanish squad as well definitely embody, they are the most the team or the squad that seemed most like a family, like a proper unit. When you saw them in Groningen, they were all together, all having a good time, all kicking back, having a real good laugh. You didn't really see anyone splintering off. The way that they supported each other at the matches, it was great. And they've just come so far from 2019 in Newcastle, where it was a case of having to explain some of the rules and doing some of the tactics, to putting on a bleeding good performance, and finishing 11th in mixed is pretty damn impressive. 3 years later to come around, they beat Switzerland, they're above Croatia, Ireland and Belgium. They finished dead last time. They've done a really good job of getting on board with dodgeball, playing a load of tactics, understanding the game better, improving their skills, and understanding what it means. Like you say, those fundamental points of you do worry at mixed in times where people would say, oh, well, okay, mixed, we just have the women on and the men go throw, and then once, the women are there just to make up the bodies. But, Spain have really embraced the fact that that's not the fact that Spain, women have a really important role to play on mixed. And often, like we were talking about in that that Italy-France game, what won games in the end, it was that play style that really came through, and Spain know that, and it really showed. It was really, really good to watch. So yeah, loved that game. And I think the only other game I want to point out was the Wales-Czechia game. I think that one went to overtime, because that was a one-set win, 11-13. Absolute heartbreak for Wales, but again, really competitive game. I think Czechia brought that one back as well, if I remember. I think Wales were... I think Wales were up at half-time and Czechia brought it back. So congratulations to them for taking ninth place. Really, really well deserved. And again, another game that if it wasn't on the other side of the sports hall and I had an amazing game of Italy-France in front of me, probably would have paid more attention to. But yes. Any more for any more?
I'm going to give a quick shout out to Belgium because even though they came 15th, they drew with Ireland in like the little group stage that they had for Croatia, Ireland, Belgium. And you've got to commend them for that because that must have been a difficult match for them to go into mentally. And they still gave them a hell of a game. And finishing 15th probably isn't justified, potentially. But yeah, fair play to them. Showed up and did themselves real justice, especially considering it was a mix where they had like a really close game against Scotland, right? Where it was 16-10. So,
And the
yeah.
games against Switzerland, so so many
Yeah.
close games that would take them out of 15 easily.
Definitely not justified. Really, like just to have them in 15th. They deserve a shout out for how well they played in some of the games that I've seen.
Yeah, they lost 15-9 to Scotland, and I think actually a real big shout out for this one is because that Belgium Ireland game was such a great game to watch that the entire sports hall that was still left was watching that game. This was the game that Zoe, I believe, was playing at the same time. So while you had us, I was there supporting Switzerland on, doing my bit. It was very difficult to ignore the cheers coming from the other end of the sports hall because it seemed like, such a great game, and the smiles on everyone's face, Ireland and Belgium, after that game, because they just knew it was a really fun game to play and very competitive. That's what we love to see. And the photos afterwards, there'll be memories that people cherish for a long time, because that's what dodgeball's about. Those kind of games, it's really friendly, really competitive. So yeah, definitely want to shout that game out, because definitely was the main showcase of the sports hall, even if everyone else may have been on the YouTube watching the Switzerland-Spain game.
Yeah, that's how Nick wasn't looking to pay attention to your game. He's just looking elsewhere. And then whenever Wales are playing, he's looking to look elsewhere. See, I'm hearing a lot of conflicting reports here, Nick.
I feel like I'm just outing myself here. Like, was I actually at Dodge the Euros to support anyone, or was I there for my own self-interest?
And the Dodgeball collection would say other interests.
Yeah, probably would. All right, shall we go on to the men's then? Shall we talk about?
Let's do it.
Men's league. Okay, cool.
You sounded so begrudging there, Paul.
Talks about the wrong thing.
I'm more worried that you're going to kill us if we keep you up too late.
The wrong graphic. There we go. So, again, men's, we had 4 pools. And in Pool A, we had Scotland finishing top with 6 points, Switzerland second, Hungary third, Netherlands fourth, with Scotland, Switzerland qualifying. Pool B, England, Wales, Sweden, Croatia, England, Wales qualifying. Pool C, Northern Ireland, France, Republic of Ireland, Spain, with Northern Ireland and France qualifying. And then Pool D, Austria, Italy, Czech Republic, and Belgium, with Austria and Italy qualifying. Yeah, thoughts?
Pool A, my God. What the hell?
What a shock.
I'm biased. But no, I mean, from memory, that Scotland-Hungary game was insanely close, in a way that I don't think anyone expected. I think a lot of people thought Hungary, myself included, thought Hungary were going to come last in that pool. And then they go and nearly beat the people that we think are going to come first in the pool. And everyone, especially the Scots, were shocked and very confused and slightly scared by what they just experienced. Not very comforting for the other teams in that group, because Switzerland then spent the rest of the time shitting themselves over what was going to happen if they went against Hungary, because we'd drawn against Netherlands. So if we'd lost against Hungary at that point, we'd have been out of the top 2. But no, it was that Hungary just massively, on the first day, I think they had just such a good day. And I don't know whether it was just the shock factor and then that wore off on the second day, or if it was an energy levels thing. Or if people just, I think, the downside to the day being, the competition being 4 days, is that you do learn other teams over time. So, even something like Hungary doing so well against Scotland, obviously Switzerland and the Netherlands are going to watch that footage. We're going to work out who it was who was doing well, and we're going to take them out, which I think was what ended up being part of the difference in the Switzerland-Hungary match. The Switzerland-Scotland match came down to a frame as well, I think, or 2 frames, something like that. ridiculously close match.
Yeah,
Just the whole
15-13 Scotland.
Absurdly close in a way that I didn't actually expect. I thought that was going to be quite straightforward, that group. So yeah, that was a very cool group to watch. Incredibly stressful group to be supporting a team that's in it, but very cool group to watch.
Yeah, the story of Thursday for Switzerland was not fun. The amount of your set different coming out was probably like -10 from all your games total. It's heartbreaking. But yeah, honestly, like that one was like Hungary like absolutely came to play. From what I understand, they only had 6 players in men's and women's. So I think fatigue probably came in on the second day, but after coming out hot and beating Netherlands straight out the gate, and then Scotland had to fight back, I think, to take over Hungary, because I think Hungary were winning at one point. I think it was a 10-8 at one point, and then Scotland finished it off strong. But Hungary really played that game well, and they were just so aggressive, such hard-throwing team, and Scotland just didn't know how to cope with it. It was really well played from Hungary, and it was great to see, to be honest. So our predictions for that one, as soon as I was sat there on Thursday watching Hungary take it to Scotland, I was like, well, who the hell knows what's happening in this group? Because at that point, I would have not predicted the final points to be there in the top 4, especially as Netherlands played so well in mixed and women's. I was expecting the men's to play equally as high. So I was like, honestly... Yeah. With Hungary playing like that, I thought Netherlands could beat Switzerland. I thought anything could have happened. I genuinely didn't know what was going to go from that point. But fair play to Switzerland being able to get the win against Hungary, and also get the draw against Switzerland against Netherlands in that game was really, really well played. And to get that qualification into the quarterfinals, congratulations! Really, really great result. So definitely want to give a shout out there for Switzerland. We'll get on to later for where they're finishing, but honestly, really great men's performance by the Swiss. Yeah, any other thoughts on Pool A, Colin, or should we go on to a different group?
No, I think you covered everything.
Because in Pool B was one that was really fun to watch.
Oh, this was such a fun watch. Bear in mind, we also got a message from the head coach from the Swedish men, who said, "Don't count us out." And by God, did we misjudge the Swedish on this? That Wales-Sweden game was absolutely fantastic to watch.
Yep.
I think there was like a 1 set in it in the end. It was something like 12-10 or 14-12. 14-12.
Yep.
Such a good game. Like, that was so... I thought Sweden had it, to be perfectly honest with you. I thought the Welsh lads, they weren't playing the best game management game at any point in my eyes. And it really let the Swedish guys into it. It was so good to watch. I don't know if you guys if you got to see it at all.
Yeah, I was watching it from afar. It was a tense game to watch from the Welsh perspective. Yeah. But it was one of those ones that I was speaking to Spike, the Welsh head coach, before about like what to expect in the first day and that kind of thing. And his description was just that everyone's really nervy on the first day. You get some really cagey results because everyone just wants to get their solid first result in and then go from there. And this is a prime example because Wales didn't have any time to be nervy. They had to go straight in and play Sweden, who at the based on the rankings and stuff, we know that was going to be the playoff for second place essentially for a qualification. So essentially you've got your playoff for the quarterfinals out the gates, and you've really got to do as well as you can. And I think it proved. I think Wales were nervy. I think Sweden were a bit more, hey, what have we got to lose kind of attitude, and they came out swinging and really took it to Wales, and cracking game. And fair play to Sweden for nearly taking it, but
also nearly taking it to England as well.
I mean this whole group was nuts because Sweden, England, Wales, England, and Wales, Sweden. All those games were really good to watch because the Wales England game got most people in the Wales and England squads, they know each other. They played against each other in nationals. It was a pretty feisty game. There was a lot of contact in the neutral zone, contesting for balls and stuff. They were fully committed, both teams. So it was a really good game to watch from that. Wales did lose out to that one, but it was definitely more competitive than the score probably represented. I know it was 16-6 in the end, but Wales really did put a good shift in my opinion. And then, yeah, like we say, the Sweden losing by one set, and that was I think the last game, or one of the last games of the group stages on that Friday. And we were watching.
I think you're right.
We were watching that, and it was one of those like mind-blowing scenarios where we're looking at all the courts, and every single court was close because we had, I think it was Austria were playing Italy on the court in front, and Austria and Italy were like very close all the way through, and then Sweden were very close all the way through. It was just, yeah, all those games were. It was like a moment to be in the sport, so it's like, which game do I watch? Because all four of them were like within a set all the way through.
It's just mad. It's just mad to think that if one set against England and one set against Wales goes Sweden's way and they finish top of the group. Like, how insane is that? And then for them to finish on 2 points in that group just doesn't do justice to how well they played. They really gave both England and Wales a hell of a game and put on a really good show for the viewers, you know, which is what you want to see. You know, you want to see exciting dodgeball that with tense moments and a proper underdog story, and they gave you one. I really, really enjoyed watching them.
Definitely, I think in all the groups as well, to be honest. Like,
yeah.
It was a really good group stage. Not sure what did you get to see any of the games when you were there? Or were you ball retrieving or Zoe? Or
Pool B or just in general?
Just in general, because I don't know what you were doing.
I did get to watch quite a lot of the matches, to be fair. I wasn't ball retrieving. I was ball retrieving sometimes for the women because I was a reserve player for the women and I played mixed. But already, when you're one of those double players that plays for both your gender and mixed, it does suck up quite a lot of time. But outside of that, I was basically watching any match that had the Swiss men in it, and then I was kind of free to pick whatever matches I wanted to watch beyond that. So I did get to catch quite a few of them. I did mainly watch a lot of the Welsh matches, to be honest, because I know a lot of Welsh people, so I was more invested in those ones. And Wales across the board played really, really well in all three categories. I think their women felt very hard done by. I imagine they're not making it out of the groups, but the men and did the mix make it out?
No, it's the men and the women got it out of the groups, so the mix didn't.
That's the way around. There you go. I remember there was one that didn't. But yeah, just they just played so well across the board, and their men were fantastic, which is quite impressive considering, like, I don't know, I've never really seen a lot of those players play together. I think when you look at a team like England, then a lot of them come from the same clubs, whereas Wales, a lot of them don't. They all play in the same league system, but you don't see them playing in the same clubs. It's not as if they're all, Carmarthen players or something. So it's quite cool to actually see. It's very exciting as someone who knows all these players to actually get to see them all team up. It's like watching Avengers for the first time. You're like, oh my god, these are all these great players that I know from all these different teams, and they get to, which is how it should be when you look at national teams. That's how it should always feel. But yeah, with Wales especially, it was just so exciting to see all these people that I know from completely different parts of dodgeball coming together and playing fantastic dodgeball. I mean, all their matches were great. So yeah,
they're definitely a team that have like a lot of players in a lot of not only different teams but different leagues, and then obviously got Dan who's over in Austria playing dodgeball as well. So yeah, it was quite a good one. But yeah, just to round up the groups then, I guess another game that I thought was really good to watch was Spain-France. Spain kept that close right till the end, and then France pulled it away. I think it was 16-8 the final score. It was like a 2-set game for the majority of it. Spain really put a real effort in there and kept it close. So
that again, compare that to Paris Open. You didn't have the French national team, obviously you had all the French clubs, but the Spanish teams didn't do especially well. They did decently, but you wouldn't have thought they would do well in a match against France, basically. And they did. They really held their own, and it was very, very good dodgeball.
Yeah, and that Italy. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to move on to Italy Austria, but if you got any points about the Spanish game.
No, what I was actually going to talk about was I felt the Irishmen got a bit hard done by in the groups. They had a very good game against France. I think it was 16-10 in the
Yep.
end. Um,
12, 16,
and I
12.
thought 16-12. Yeah, easily. I felt like they were missing the aggression that I was kind of expected from them. But overall, they did play very well. I don't know whether it was a bit of nerves, as that's the big game for them in that group. Realistically, I'd be expecting Northern Ireland to beat France, Ireland, and Spain. So that was the big game. I don't know whether it was a bit of nerves or something, but they showed some quality sets, and I felt like um, it was probably the mental side of it that stopped them beating France. But I do think they deserve a shout out for how well they played across the tournament. To be honest,
Mm. I think
Yeah.
as well, like France probably, it's not completely fair to say, but they did somewhat luck out by even getting out of that group. I obviously I did predict that they would get out, but I think if you'd asked me on the first or second day I, whether I wanted to change that prediction, I think I would have. It wasn't always, we said before that the England squad wasn't the same lineup that we always expected.
mm.
But the France side, for my experience, the French men's lineup wasn't actually always what I expected it to be either, nor was their mixed as far as the men that they put on court.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they kind of found their way as the tournament went on, but I actually think they played fantastically, but I think the quality of players that they've got in France, they could have done even better than they did. And I think there maybe were some tactical decisions that we'd hope to see kind of, well, not tactical, but player decisions and lineup decisions that maybe like to see ironed out in future. But overall, they made it out. You
Interesting.
can't entirely say it comes down to luck. It does
No.
come down to winning those matches. And I think they probably gave them a bit of a kick up the arse as far as like realizing they actually need to do something in the next few stages. Also, that was the most posh way I've ever said arse.
Oh,
Congratulations, or one of us.
Oh, but you know
Next
what I mean?
vocabulary
Like,
is rubbing off on you.
I think if you come out of the group stages in second place with a set difference of two, and there have been no ties, that is saying something about how close those matches were, and saying as
Yeah,
well that they didn't have strong victories really. So I think that kind of for them must have been a wake up call on Friday night that okay, we need to start knuckling down and really fighting for it, which I think they did in their quarterfinals. So yeah,
France's biggest win for the tournament was definitely their kit design. I'm just gonna put it out there. Kit was incredible. Really love their design. Very sleek. I love it. 10 out
you're
of
not
10.
becoming the kick collector 2.0, right? We're
No, no,
throwing
no.
this out there now.
You know,
Okay.
what I didn't get to see is the French dodgeballs. I'm afraid. So if anyone does have a French dodgeball that they'd like to share to the Catching Out Instagram, please let us know because if it's as good as the kit, then it should be a good design. But anyway, the last game that I was going to cover, it was in Pool D. You're right there, Colin.
So disappointed in you, lad.
Oh, the cringe is real, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
That Italy Austria game in the final, it was not that close in the end. Austria won 18-8. It did feel like a close game when they were watching it, and I think it was Austria just steamed the second half, to be honest. But like the first half was definitely pretty close, and the Italy men definitely have a result to be proud of there. The Italy men are like a consistently like really good team, and they're just you can never like just like forget about because they will cause you problems if you don't take them seriously. And I think that really prepped Austria for the quarters. I think they had the way that Italy played was just really well played, like really good games, and really took it to Austria. I think that was the thing is that Italy came out the gates and they were like, we're going to take the game to Austria. They're going to be as aggressive. They're going to equal that aggression, and I think Austria just had to deal with that to begin with, and then eke the game out from there, and then go, okay, right, you want to play this type of game, we're going to take it straight back to you, and we'll win it out that way, and just kind of got out muscled. But Italy played a really great game, and should be one to watch. I think for the future as well is the way that Italy play, and hopefully next Euros will see
Yeah,
that again.
and in the same way, you got to give a shout out to Czechia because
Mhm.
I think it was a really tight game in the men's against Italy. Came down to one set, 16-4 or 16-14. I can do math. Yeah, so it just shows you how tight that group was. Like I said, Italy could pull it out a really good half against Austria, and they pulled out a really good game against Czechia. And all three of them deserve praise for how well they played in the group stage. Austria were just very professional about it all in terms of play style, and they showed it especially in the second half against Italy. It
Yeah.
was a very good group, very entertaining group to watch. Shout out to Belgium as well because that's one hell of a group to be put into. There's no easy games there for you.
Yep. Yeah, I do agree. And it was 18-16 was the final score apparently. But yeah, I think that goes to show just like we were talking about this before in terms of the groups and how they were drawn. It was kind of nuts how close some of these results came because traditionally sort of like you expect the top teams to do really well and really take it to the bottom teams, and then the mixed teams is you still get like a cascade of like there's a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 kind of system. Very much less so this Euros. In all the competitions, in all the groups, there was good competition all the way around, really good matches, some really close ones in the middle of the groups or at the bottom of the groups as well. Like it wasn't a case of there were just clear cut winners and clear cut like pools. It was good competition all around, and I think that speaks to the speaks volumes to the level of improvement that we've seen from all the teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree, mate.
But yeah, let's go on to knockouts.
The fun stuff.
Ta-da!
For you audio listeners, it's now changed to the knockout, the knockouts graphics.
Well, the quarterfinal through to the final. So the routes that people took to get to the end. So yeah, I think favourites won most of the games, and it was a fairly comfortable victory in most of them, apart from that Scotland Wales game. I think we talked about it beforehand that we kind of saw that England Austria match coming, but the other side we didn't know who would get through to the final from that one. I am going to eat some humble pie because Northern Ireland really showed up. I've done the graphic wrong as well because I've shown Scotland getting through to the final there, and it was Northern Ireland that got through to the final. But yeah, Northern Ireland really showed up and really played really well. So fair play to them in getting all the way through. Scotland took it to Wales as well. Like I say, Scotland were the most inconsistent team in my opinion, and after a bit of a dicey group, especially against Hungary and stuff, they came out firing in the quarters.
Yeah, they definitely outplayed Wales in my opinion. Some fantastic. I felt like their game management was very very good. In terms of I felt like in the group stages they were quite wasteful at times, whereas they never gave Wales the opportunities that they gave other teams in terms of giving away the fourth and fifth ball. Um, yeah, deserved winners. Good throwing, good catching, good all round play. Wales played well. I think they were was that the game that Liam Ryder was out for
He was
with
out
injury?
he was out for a lot of games, to be honest. I
Yeah,
think it was the first or second day he injured himself, so yeah, he was not playing in the third or fourth day, I don't think.
yeah. I was probably a big loss for Wales. He's a very very good player. Does a lot in court for them. So he could have made a difference for them for sure. But yeah, Scotland played well. Deserved to go through.
Yeah, out of the other ones I have just noticed, I think when I was thinking France got their act together, I don't think it was for the quarterfinals, clearly. 27-1 is quite a rough scoreline, even against someone like Austria. I think I was thinking of the placement matches, but yeah. The 24-4 scoreline between England and Switzerland, fascinating to be sat in the room with the Swiss guys on the evening beforehand, where they're basically just sort of staring down their own demise. I don't think any of them went into that match hoping to. I don't think they thought they were going to win at all, because I don't think anyone would predict them to. But they won two sets in the first half, like really early on, And it was really, really exciting for everyone because you could just see the faces of the English guys at that moment. Like, that's priceless. That's better than any medal. If you can just really shock and get under the skin of some of your opponents like that, that is a really satisfying feeling in the worst way possible. You know, we're all evil people secretly. I think the
Oh,
Swiss
so
just
I
like
love you.
I think the Swiss were just so proud of themselves, and rightly so, for getting those initial few sets against England. I think that's a phenomenal achievement, even if the
I'm
final
proud of them
score
too.
was quite bad. But yeah, very exciting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was busy watching the Wales-Scotland game at the time, but I definitely looked over and I was like, Switzerland won another set, and like being like, this has exceeded my expectation already. Not surprised England pulled away in the end, but it was good to see like a strong performance from Switzerland coming out and holding their own with England. And again, like, I agree with what Max said. There was no blowout scores anywhere, especially in the quarterfinals. Like, there's no like ridiculously high score lines. Teams held their own, and this is one thing to remember. If you're new to dodgeball, you're coming across with this. Like, dodgeball is it's a bit like tennis in the nested scoring system, because yes, you see the final score as like 24-4, but the other score is how many players are actually left on court. What was the set actually like? Because the final score doesn't reflect the actual match that went by. Like, England could have won those 12 sets that to get 24 by winning with 2 players versus 1 player. We know they didn't, but like that's not reflected in the score itself. You don't actually know that, and I think that's just something to note, is that if we were really expecting like an absolute whitewash or something like that, you'd see a 30+ score line on Switzerland. And it really wasn't. Switzerland held their own there, and very impressive. I think similarly like Italy against Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland ended up winning, beating everyone else, and they did really well. Italy to get 4 sets on them, so 4.5. Yeah. Semi-finals. Yes. Northern Ireland kind of, well, other than a very broken, dislocated, just disjointed finger for Scotland in the semis.
Insert meme.
That was.
Oh, Josh.
I believe it was his own fault, right? Because he landed on his own. He like fell on his own hand.
I can't lie. I've watched back that moment 2 or 3 times purely for Tamara's reaction.
Yeah, it was.
She looks like she's about to throw up on court.
I remember looking over and just like, wait, what's happened here?
She just turns right.
My favourite thing with that whole story
so good.
was the photo of Josh Keys that was circulated around afterwards of him in the emergency, where like he's sat there, his finger is like that, like it's off at completely the wrong angle, and there's like 2 nurses behind him, like giving a thumbs up. And so when you look at the photo initially, you're like, oh, that's a nice photo of Josh and 2 random women. That's weird. And then you look at it a bit longer, and you're like, wait, what's up with his hand?
This.
I just want to say, Josh, like, okay, Stefan dislocated his finger, from what I've heard, in the middle of the mixed semi-final. He popped it back into place and played the rest of the game. So, Josh, what are you playing at?
Wimp.
Obviously, only play to the level that you're comfortable at. If you're injured, go off. Obviously, I'm taking no.
That's not where I thought you were going with that. I thought you were just saying, stick to nationals, mate.
Wow.
I'm back at 2.
No. Josh played really well. Like, he did play very well for Scotland. So, of course, I'd never say something like that. But yeah, Northern Ireland winning that one in the end. But the England-Austria game, I think the score line was very surprising for a lot of people coming into this. One thing, having re-listened to it, I didn't realise that Austria had never beaten England in the men's. That is one thing
either did I.
The
Probably should have known this. But yeah.
The only reason that England haven't gotten through to the finals is because Northern Ireland have done the job for Austria. So, this was an interesting one, because it wasn't a game that was played last Euros, but England won this one pretty comfortably in the end. And I think it was the games didn't feel that comfortable when watching it, but it was definitely a case of just racking up the sets earlier on, just putting the scoreboard, keeping the scoreboard ticking over. England played a really good game, to be honest. Taras did good stuff on the wing that really kept Austria at bay, in my opinion.
It's that aggression from him and Brett in particular was Austria just really struggled to handle. They were just binning off players left, right, and centre and surviving themselves. And whenever Austria tried to take out the middlemen, they're taking catches, dodging, doing everything to survive, and they've done really, really well. Austria just couldn't handle it. Fair play to England, like that was a hell of a game they played. Just if you can stop your opponent getting any momentum in a game with the kind of aggression they played with, then you absolutely deserve the win.
Mm-hmm. I think the other thing that England did as well was just like they were taking every catch pretty much. Like just when you think Austria sort of have a foothold in the game, that they're really sort of coming up into it. Like Nini made some good catches. It was just like the whole team were just making catches like seemingly out of nowhere, and it really like you say halted that Austrian aggression, because either you've got the wingers that are pinning your back and really holding you from being able to be that aggressive, or get those shots that you're thinking, I'm just going to take this person here or whatever, and then England just catching them out of nowhere, bringing players back on and turning the game back around. Really well played by England.
Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree.
Yeah. The final. Big one.
Oh, what a game.
I don't think you're ever going to find a final of an international competition like decided by such a close margin ever. So
I genuinely was emotional watching this.
Oh, 100%. Like, I'm rewatching it again. Really hard to stay focused, because it was just like heart beating, like watching it, just like this is so tense the whole way through. Like, so as an experience as a spectator, like the times where the whole sports hall was dead silence, and all you could hear was like the scuffs of shoes on floors as they were playing, and like the whistle of a ball going past people. Like, you could hear everything. It was crazy. And then like the complete like converse of that is when a hit happens or whatever, and just the whole hall erupts. It was just, it was a really great experience. But for context for our audio listeners, the reason why it was so close to what I was saying is a match that went down to the wire. England took the lead early on, and Northern Ireland clawed it all the way back to the point where it went to an overtime set. Which is I believe the rules are 3 minutes of normal play. If after 3 minutes there isn't a clear winner, then it is sudden death, I believe. I haven't.
Yeah, next side loses the game.
Yes, and this 3 minute overtime set, in the final seconds was 2-2, I believe, and just before the end, there was a throw by Harrison onto the Northern Irish player, who I couldn't remember the name of. He then deflects it up in the air. Harrison immediately realises that this has gone up into the air, so he jumps up to go and catch the ball, to which the guy that deflected it then throws at Harrison to hit him out before the catch is made.
Johnny Hill, that's who it was. Johnny Hill.
Was it Hill? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Johnny, not Adam.
Yeah, Johnny. So that happened, and it was like that instant decision of, was the catch made or was the hit made? And then the Northern Irish player puts his hand up like, I don't know what happened there, starts walking off the court as Brett's coming forward to take a counter on him, just in case that catch didn't count. At which point the refs intervened and said, we need to figure out what just happened there, because by this point the Northern Irish player had already walked off court. So it was a very, very tight one, and this was when there was 1 second left on the clock. So no finer margin could really happen there. So the refs then come together to decide, like, figure out what happened. I think the right decision was made in the end. If you watch it back on the replay, is essentially it was a hit before the catch, which meant that Northern Ireland had 2 players on court and England only had 1. and in that 1 second was not enough time for the game to restart. I think Brett managed to get a throw off,
Yeah,
but
Calvin jumped over it, and that was the
that
the end of the game.
was the
So
match.
which, to be fair play to Brett.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you got to do whatever you can in that scenario. So
Yeah.
honestly, the closest. I don't think we're ever going to see a closer game than that.
No,
What a
definitely
spectacle.
not. It was incredible, and I was so happy for Northern Ireland. Like, they fully deserved it, because every year they just keep getting better and better at, like, just the overall game. Tactically, they were willing to change up their game to try and get back into it, and it worked perfectly. Um, and a big shout out the three players. I thought that everybody in Northern Ireland played fantastic. I'm going to say that, but the three players that really stood out for me for Northern Ireland were Adam Hill, Murphy, and Kelvin. I completely forgot who I missed off the list. Them three were phenomenal. Josh McElroy as well probably deserves a shout out. Thought he played very, very well. Yeah, across the board, it was just incredible to watch, and they definitely deserved it in the end. At times, it felt like England probably didn't turn on the pressure like they did against previous opponents, especially in the Austria game. They didn't take chances where they usually would have in a few of the sets. But Northern Ireland just kept playing their game, and it worked. And oh my god, I was so happy they won it. I really was.
Yeah, I think there's nothing really more I can say on the match. I think it was just such a fantastically close match, and it's what you want in a final like this. You want the match to be close because that shows that your system has worked, your seeding has worked. You've got two of the best nations playing against each other, and they're evenly matched, which is really good sign for the sport and the growth of the sport. But from an audience perspective, my God, that final, the feeling in the crowd. I think Nick, you said it before in our chats that like it felt like we were at a proper quote unquote sporting event. This felt like going to any sporting event really. When I've gone to watch the football, when I've gone to watch rugby, it's that kind of energy that you get in the audience where everyone is super engaged and is cheering for anything that happens. Basically, every single part of it was so exciting. Every hit counted so much that it was incredible. And that crowd energy. I mean, the crowd energy was very good in the other two finals, but it was off the charts in that final one because everyone was back. It's the last final, so everyone's back in the crowd and everyone's like watching that and really just sort of you've had that build up of the other two finals, and now you get this fantastically close match. I mean, it doesn't get better than that. It was such a great way of ending Euros. Such a wonderful match. My only criticism of it is that it ruined my perfect prediction. I predicted everything else in men's, and then it comes down to Northern Ireland and England, and I said England would win like an idiot. Ugh.
Yeah, and I definitely saved me from we're going to say overall I won the predictions, right, as the only one that predicted a winner.
No,
No, but
everything else right.
In terms of the atmosphere, it really came across in the live streams as well. And I want to give a big shout out to Greg and John Rudland for their commentary across the three finals, especially. But how they handled the men's final really kept you engaged as a viewer, which is something we want to see more of. We were talking about wanting more commentary on streams, and Euros going forward. And that was a prime example of why you wanted, because they really added to the spectacle of the game. So shout out to them, done a really, really good job, I thought.
Yeah, definitely. And like going back to like the crowd thing, I think the reason why it was such an incredible spectacle is because if you looked at the other three finals, right, the Austrian England women's final, I think it might be a bit of a controversial thing to say, but I feel like people kind of favoured Austria to win that one. Like, Austria are the reigning champions.
That's not controversial. They've won it four times.
Okay, yeah. Like, there's been COVID. The England women have got better. It's just I think there was a feeling that Austria could could win this, and they went up and did a quite good job. And then in the Northern Ireland Austria game, like they were both, I'd say, crowd favourites. And then it just came down to everyone just wanted a really good game. You know, everyone was like enjoying it. There was a buzz around it because of the game. And I think in the England Northern Ireland game, this men's final, it was more tense because it was more like, we genuinely don't know who's going to win this, because we know what happened last time. We've had COVID since then. England are going to come out guns blazing to try and, you know, rectify what happened last time. And you know, they did. They came out really hot to begin with. They got a good lead on them, and then Northern Ireland just stayed within touching distance. They managed to bring it back. And I think the only thing that I noticed in the gameplay that changed in the half, because you know, Brett in his interview mentioned with Dodgeball Podcast mentioned that he felt like, you know, they kind of like let slip the game a little bit. I think it was a bit of both, to be honest. Like from what I watched, like England were really good at the beginning, and this is just my very novice takeaway of what I saw, is that England's cross-court throwing at the beginning was really good and was basically getting 100% hit rate of getting Northern Irish players out, and it was getting key players out at the beginning as well. So like, you know, Adam and Kelvin were getting out pretty early because of these cross-court throws that were happening, and it was, you know, really well played. As the game wore on, I think Northern Ireland found their footing a bit better, and England became a little bit more linear with their throws, which meant that it was a little bit easier for Northern Ireland to dodge and find their way back into it. The rest of the game was incredibly tight. I think that's literally the only thing that I saw change over the period of the game. But the whole game was just so tight all the way through, and the fact that it was decided by, you know, referees having to dissect what happened in an overtime set is kind of nuts, because I think Northern Ireland took the lead before the final, and England won the final set to bring it to over. I can't remember. It was just, yeah, really great game, really great advert for sport, because it just shows you how tense it can be. And yeah, like I said, from being in the crowd, it was just, it felt like a proper sporting event. You know, you had the cheering, you had the different teams supporting different people, and it was a great atmosphere. I felt, I like standing in there, like, yes, it was very hot, but people were seriously jumping around. There's a real like electric feel going through, and then like, you know, that expression of, you know, you cut the tension with a knife kind of thing. Like it honestly felt like that at times. It was such a great experience. So yeah, if you haven't booked your tickets to fly to Croatia already after one episode of telling you how great Euros Dodgeball is, sort it out. We'll see you there next October.
All right, you've convinced me. I'll go next time.
Oh, great. And the final shout out I wanted to do, I wanted to say really well done to the refs, because in those finals, you know, being able to keep control of the crowd that, you know, were getting pretty rowdy. They were wanting to support, they wanting to cheer all the time. I think Sam especially did a really good job of, especially in that men's final, of like just making sure that everything was quiet so everyone could hear the whistle at the start of the set and it was fair. I think that was, you know, really well done, and you know, I just want to say congratulations to the rest of how they organised it, because they did a really good job of reffing those finals. I felt in probably difficult scenarios, because the whole crowd, like the whole tournament's watching you, and you're being live streamed. So yeah, congratulations. But yeah, should we go on to the final placings?
Let's do it.
So yeah, Northern Ireland take the gold. They take 2 golds. Or is that mixed? Oh, I'm tired.
I was going to say, I was really worried because I didn't want to be the one to tell you you're missing somebody.
I didn't want to be like, Switzerland did not come 12.
It's a long day. It's been a long day. Northern Ireland first take the gold. They take the 2nd gold ever at Euros. They take 2 at this Euros. England take the silver and Austria take the bronze, which means that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Northern Ireland take 2 golds and a bronze. England take 2 silvers and a bronze, and Austria take a gold, silver, and a bronze.
Yeah.
Yes.
So medals distributed between 3 teams, which is pretty good going. Some good competition all the way around, I think, and it just speaks to the levels of improvement that we're seeing.
Definitely.
But yeah, outside of that, Scotland finishing 4th, losing to Austria in their 3rd, 4th playoff. Italy beating Switzerland. Now, this is where, you know, I know Zoe's gonna like talk about it as well, but I have to say, Switzerland winning that first game in the playoffs after losing the quarterfinals, so they beat France 16-12 to then like get them into a top six finish. Honestly, like when I saw that result, I was just like so impressed and over the moon for Switzerland, because that was such a great result against a strong French team.
Yeah.
Like really impressive.
I think it was just astounding. I think going into that competition, I had thought Switzerland was going to come eighth because I predicted them to get out for the group stages, but I honestly didn't think that they'd be able to take anyone the next stages. And the guys knew this. They were mocking me for the fact that I had said it, and they, you know, they were very much like, "Oh, we'll prove you wrong. We'll prove your podcast wrong." But yeah,
Whoa,
that match
don't bring the neck into it.
that match against France was so good, and just, you know, really showed. Like I said, I think France had actually kicked into a higher gear by that point. They'd kind of got their act together, and Switzerland, you know, struggled at times against it, but overall just took them in a way that you've never really seen Switzerland play against France like that. Like, it's historically not been a very good match for Switzerland. So yeah, Switzerland coming sixth. I mean, the thing that Ben Fav kept saying was that, like, that would mean if we could qualify for the Worlds this year, if it wasn't just an invitational, if it was a qualification system, it's the top six. So Switzerland would have qualified for Worlds this year in men's, which is insane. Like, for such a small country with such a tiny club scene, that is phenomenal, and that speaks to the quality of the players. They did brilliantly, and they put everything into that match. I don't think they were that upset by losing to Italy. I think they were just so happy that they were in the fifth, sixth place playoff in the first place. So yeah, really, really well done, Switzerland, on that one. Swiss men massively did us proud.
A really good game against France as well. Like the way I saw it was a really controlled game. They really controlled themselves and took the advantages that France were giving them, because France are, at least in their men's, the way that I saw it, a little gung-ho at times, and a little, they're really aggressive and like to be up in your face. And I think Switzerland were just like, fine, you come out, throw us the balls, we'll have ball possession and we'll take you off one at a time, and deal with it that way. And I think, you know, Switzerland did a really great job of controlling the game. France, though, like looking at the alternative side of the story, had a abysmal playoff series, because they lost pretty heavily against Austria. They lose to Switzerland by 2 sets, and they lose to Wales by 1 set as well. It was a pretty rough run-in for France, but in the playoffs. But I don't think any of us would have predicted France coming 8th, because we know that they are better than that and they can do better. But I think it just, like we say, speaks to the growth of Switzerland, and also the other teams in the Euros, that just show you can't rely on any result going your way.
No.
But yeah, on the other side of it, Wales finished 7th after beating France narrowly. Italy looking very strong when they beat Wales. I would love to see Italy Scotland. I don't think they played. Yeah, they didn't play. That would have been a great game. And it's only because Scotland played Wales that there's that 4th-5th divide.
Yeah.
Because I think we can all agree there's a top 3, and then like I'd probably say Scotland and Italy are above the rest, to be honest. And then there's not by much, but then you got like everyone else fighting it out. I would have loved to have seen an Italy-Scotland game. So maybe we can arrange a friendly just to see it happen. Yeah.
Catching out invitational.
Just for those games that we couldn't watch
No.
at the Euro. Yeah, for those games that we couldn't watch at the Euros, Italy, France, women's, please can you play? Italy, Scotland, can you play, please? Just organise. Just want to watch this for fun, because we weren't able to see it at the Euros, so please sort it out.
Oh, brilliant.
But yeah, no, it's because we have 16 teams, we had playoffs all the way through, so you know, everyone had to fight in a knockout style to get the position that they wanted, and which we love to see, because it means that there's true competition all the way through. Spain doing a cracking job, finishing 13th, beating both Belgium and Croatia. Great games as well. Good dodgeball on display there. Definitely worth watching those ones. just all the way through. I can't speak high enough for how good the competition was throughout the Euros. I'm going to keep saying it, but that's why we're only doing 2 episodes and 4 hours of me talking about this and us talking about how good it was.
Could have easily been 8.
Yeah, it could have. Yeah, we were talking at one point. Let's just do 4 different episodes and talk about it. And they're like, yeah, we don't have the willpower to get through that because there's just so much to talk about. And let's just keep it concise, save the listeners. But yeah, any other thoughts on the final placings of the Euros?
Yeah, I thought the Sweden-Czechia game was very good. I think that came down to 1 or 2 sets, if memory serves. 1 set.
Yep.
I will get it right eventually.
So I've got Tornify on the side.
Yeah, I made the silly error of noting down the matches I wanted to talk about, and I forgot to write down the scores because I'm a genius.
Mug.
Muggle. Yeah. Sweden, especially considering how close they came against England and Wales, they only lost by 1 or 2 sets, both of them. To finish 9th, I think kind of does them a bit dirty. I think the whole ranking system probably didn't do them justice overall, because I think they played some incredible dodgeball. So yeah, I think they deserve a big shout out. I haven't watched it, but I kind of want to see the Ireland-Hungary game, especially after hearing you talk about how well Hungary played in the group stage. I definitely want to watch that back now. And yeah, big shout out to Spain, Croatia, Netherlands, Belgium, creating a very entertaining playoff system between themselves. Definitely worth a watch if you want to kind of learn about new nations. Yeah, overall, the men's tournament I think was just really enjoyable to watch with some incredible dodgeball, some incredible players, and I probably have about 3 or 4 weeks worth of dodgeball content that I probably need to catch up on, even though I've watched a load of it already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of matches that I still want to watch because we had to talk about dodgeball eventually and get this podcast out, but at the same time I was just like, but can I just watch a couple more games so I can talk about them? But then, like, at the end of the day, we're still going to talk 2 hours about dodgeball, and I haven't gone into full detail on some of the games that probably deserve some detail. So maybe time for another day. We'll go into a bit of match analysis or something, but we'll talk about that another day. But yeah, Zoe, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that we just don't have to say. I think the thing that really bothered me with the time span that we had to prepare is that we can't give shout outs to every single fantastic play that we saw. There's going to be some amazing play in a match that happened at, 5 p.m. on the second day that we just haven't got around to seeing that match. And that might have been the best play of the whole tournament and we won't have seen it. But we also wouldn't have heard about it because there's so many amazing plays that happen that everyone you talk to, they're like, oh my God, did you see this thing happen? Did you see that thing happen? I think that's just, it's fantastic that we're at that stage where there's just so much good dodgeball happening everywhere. It didn't feel as if there were any punch bags in any of the different divisions. I can't really speak too much, so I didn't really watch any of the Belgian men's matches, so I can't say if they were a punch bag in this case, but it really didn't feel as if any of the newer countries were being destroyed completely and couldn't find their own footing. That's the English word. I'm so sorry. I'm really tired. It's that kind of thing where it's just really nice to see that there's no one who's getting destroyed at Euros by everyone. There's always going to be a couple matches where the highest ranked team plays against the lowest ranked team and it's a scoreline of 28-2 or something. But that's actually not that bad in the grand scheme of things. We've all seen matches or played in matches that have been 36-0 or 40. I think the worst one I've ever done was a 44-0 or something like that. You don't see that at Euros, and I think that's really good because there is the chance that something's going to happen like that when you have teams like Belgium, like Hungary, like Croatia that are coming with relatively new players that don't really know exactly how to play at this level. I do wonder how much of this had to do with the fact that I don't think there were any nations that hadn't appeared in Euros before. I think that's what we worked out. Everyone's appeared at least once before. So no one was completely green coming into this.
In some
It's
form, there
very
might have
different.
been new teams, but there weren't
A
any
new
new
team, but no new
nations.
nations.
Yep.
And there's an important distinction there because the big difference between your first and second Euros is that you know how seriously it's taken.
Yeah.
That you've seen that this is something that people take at this level, that they have tactics, that they have calling systems, even simple things like a calling system. You don't necessarily know that that's a thing in dodgeball until you go to your first Euros and suddenly it's there. So I think, yeah, that was maybe something quite interesting that if we didn't have any completely new nations, then we had everyone at least knew the rules, and that created this fantastically competitive environment. Obviously, it's great to have new countries, but it was really unique this time around to have everyone on the same footing and actually know what they were doing, which sounds like the barest minimum, but it's not how Euros normally happen. I think that just made it a very interesting and competitive Euros this time around. It made it probably one of the best Euros we've ever had, just having so many countries that knew what they were doing in one room.
Yep. I 100% agree, and I don't think it's just dodgeball. You talk about it in that sense of like, no one getting absolutely obliterated, but you watch from a British perspective at the moment, you watch the Commonwealth Games, for example, and like sports like hockey and netball, you are seeing blowouts, and that's just because of the nature of it is. Commonwealth's trying to invite as many people in, and you are seeing very one-sided scores, and it was really great to not have that in the same way in the Euros, and seeing, like you say, having that calling systems coming in. You didn't feel like anyone had to be taught dodgeball. You definitely felt like people were coming with their own style and were trying to play to their own strengths. So it wasn't just a case of you understand the basics of dodgeball. It's like they'd actually come prepared because they wanted to win. And yeah, it was really, really great.
I think that's very comforting to just sort of see that, yes, the learning curve is very steep for that first year. And then after that, it does plateau. You can have a national team that's only existed for 3 years and it's basically as good as a national team that's existed for six. The difference between those years is very different, is very little, rather. Whereas the difference between year one and year two of a national team is huge. And that's really good for the sport. If we are a sport that you can get pretty competitive at that quickly, then that means that we have, in future, when we have more countries joining in and sort of beginner nations starting out and looking at this Euros going, okay, how can we get to that point? You'll get there. You'll get there after your first Euros. It might not be that great your first Euros. It will be a very strong learning experience, but the second time round, yeah, it's incredible looking at the difference in some of those teams like Hungary and Spain of coming to their second ones. I think seconds for Spain. And like just the quality this time around was fantastic.
Yep, totally agree. All right. No, not the wrong one. What happens when? So we are coming to the end now because honestly, we are all absolutely shattered. The hot weather, talking about dodgeball, the amount of dodgeball content we've consumed, it's been a joy, but we are all very tired now. So we're probably gonna have a nice long rest after this, and hopefully come back with some more content for you guys and everyone. Like hopefully soon. We'll let you know what that is when we come up with an idea. If you have any thoughts, feel free to send in messages because we're always happy to chat and take on any thoughts and feedback. And yeah, like it's been a great Euros, and obviously we've got Worlds coming up, so we're going to be looking forward to that, and probably do a bit of a breakdown after that afterwards. No promises. And then obviously looking forward to British Dodgeball. The season starting in October, so we'll picking up some of the content over there. And if there's any nations out there who've got any local competitions going on, please reach out because we're trying to figure out what national competitions are going on outside of Britain. We know about Austria and Italy and France, but if there's any others out there, please let us know because we'd love to try and capture some of those events. Switzerland, yeah, Switzerland. We're trying and capture some, and Ireland as well. Try and capture some of that in our social media posts so we can help, share all the good sporting and dodgeball results out there. So yeah, get in touch. Obviously, follow us on the social medias down below. If you want to email us, we do have an email. It's catchingoutpod@outlook.com. And yeah, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Definitely the subscribe. Like, come on now. There's 33% of you guys are not subscribed. We definitely need you to get on that.
insulting that.
I know.
Insulting.
You're taking our content and not subscribing.
Next time we see you, we want you to show your phone, and it better say subscribed.
Yeah,
Better. You.
yeah.
Looking at you.
You.
Full YouTuber
Eric.
mode. Don't make me send a Karen after you.
But yeah, thanks for listening to our podcast, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace.
Peace.
Bye.